Welcome to Beer Stories for Private Equity. Join us for our weekly happy hour, tapping into 27 years of PE experience, one pint at a time.
Beer Stories for Private Equity is powered by Monogram Group.
On today's show, we're excited to be joined by John Signa, founder and CEO of E78 Partners.
And for Monogram Group, here's your host, Scott Markman.
Please fasten your seatbelts.
All right, so today we're joined by John Signa, founder and CEO. John, is that your title correct?
That's right.
Of E78 Partners, based in Chicago, but a national footprint of offices. So John, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
Let's start with your background. I love the fact that you're a native son of Chicago, went to college here, built your career here, started your firm here. So why not, decamp to New York, Miami, LA, the other big private equity financial centers? Why commit everything to your native city?
The real answer is I'm a mama's boy, Scott. First generation, parents immigrated here from Italy. My whole family is here. Fortunately, my wife's family is here too. Our whole world is centered around our community in and throughout the Chicagoland area. So for me, I don't mind hopping on an airplane. I do it almost weekly now, but Chicago's home.
Next kind of background question. You've been involved inside or outside of private equity for a chunk of your career, both as an accountant, I believe, and in providing a range of advisory services, and then working within a very successful and well-known private equity shop. So what attracted you to this category, this world, and you've built your career around it?
I was fascinated by private equity as soon as I was introduced to that world. I started out my career as a CPA in public accounting. And fortunately for me, I was in the financial services group where my clients were PE firms, private equity firms. And so, that was really my first experience with the industry. And as I got to learn more about it, these groups that were established to raise capital, to invest in businesses and essentially partner with entrepreneurs. And the entrepreneur, I think, is like a special breed, right? Someone who has taken a leap of faith, who's willing to bet on his or herself. So I always found entrepreneurs just fascinating from as long as I can remember. And so moving into a profession, eventually moving out of public accounting and then into private equity, I felt so fortunate to land at the couple of PE firms here in Chicago that I ended up working for. And then I got to experience firsthand what it was like to evaluate investment opportunities, ultimately make the investments in these companies, partner with those founders. And I was just so drawn to it. I was inspired by the entrepreneurs that the firms that I was with had backed, the businesses that they had built. And it was that inspiration really that led me to start E78.
Excellent. I'm going to take a pause here and do the ritual here at Beer Stories for Private Equity, which is I'm going to pull out my beer of choice today. For those who are watching, Kona Big Wave Liquid Aloha. My dog Kona is at my feet. He is our official agency mascot, and I happen to love the beer, and we have a bunch of it in the fridge, and so why not? And cheers. John mentioned to me that he would love to have a beer, but he's interviewing somebody later, and so he's sticking to Starbucks Finest, I assume.
Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts cold brew. So
okay, I'm not a Dunkin' guy, but I know a lot of people who are. So hats off to Dunkin'. They do a great job. All right, you mentioned that at some point you decided to start E78. So what led up to that, and what were the circumstances around which you hung your shingle and said, "Let's go"?
I was with a firm based here in Chicago, very established private equity firm, and I was number 2 in command within the finance organization. And my CFO was not that much older than me, and he had been with the firm several years longer than I had been. So it was a combination of feeling like my opportunity within that firm was going to be somewhat limited in terms of growth, feeling like I had acquired a tremendous amount of experience and built a great professional network over the course of my career. And then what I had observed throughout my career in private equity was that the CFO role within the companies that we were investing in was by far one of the most challenging, if not the most challenging role. Lots of turnover, not just within the portfolio companies that we had invested in. This was like an industry-wide problem. And so as I reflected and thought about the skills that I had acquired over the years and where my strengths were and how I can potentially partner with private equity groups and support them as they're acquiring these businesses and looking to transform those businesses, I just thought timing's right. I've got the experience. The market opportunity seems to be big. And I was so inspired by so many of the entrepreneurs I had met along my journey. I just felt like it was the right time for me.
You hear of certainly folks that leave a private equity firm because typically the exit is start your own firm, join a bigger firm where there's more opportunity, go to the company side. But your choice, which was to go back and serve the market based on insight that you had experienced and you saw a market opportunity, has always struck me as a very unique and particular answer to your own personal goals. You flipped it into what is now a substantial enterprise today.
Outside of the accounting experience and finance experience and CFO experience that I was able to bring to the organizations I was partnering with, I did have this great experience in private equity, because what I didn't want to do was leave a career in private equity that I worked really hard to get into to start a lifestyle business, right? And become a career consultant. I wanted to build a business that I could scale, leave a legacy that when I step away from this business at some point, this legacy will continue and the leaders within this organization will take it to the next level. For me, that's what was like really intriguing and exciting about starting the business back in 2016.
So let's go back to those first 180 days. Did you have partners? Did you have some capital behind you? Did you have a business plan? Did you have services? Did you have folks that would say on day one, I'll throw you business? What was that first leap off the ground? Because if you don't make it past 180 days, we're not here today. So what happened that worked?
I wish I could tell you I had it all figured out. The only yes I can answer there is yes, I did have a partner. We thought we had business that we could depend on out of the gates, and that business fell through. And so within the first 90 days, my partner and I are staring at each other in an office that's about 120 square feet. We're sharing a desk, phone's not ringing, no emails coming through. It was scary times, but we found a way. It started with one client, and because we had so much time, we were able to devote everything to that client, create an exceptional experience for that client. And from there, it was just the snowball effect. All of a sudden, within 2-3 years, we were so busy in the business and then working nights and weekends on the business that we wake up 3 years later and all of a sudden we've got 30, 40 people, 10 million in revenue. And now we've got a real organization. What I've learned is high quality work and great customer experience leads to more work.
You're sitting on a staff of 30 or 40 and a book of business, let's say 20 or 30 clients, whatever the number is. Did you have any kind of preparation of understanding of what the hell it was going to take to deal with that? Because nobody trains you to be a leader. You just become a leader. Like, how did you grow into that quickly?
We bootstrapped it. So we didn't have any capital behind us initially. I wanted to get the business to a point where financially I could remove myself from the business, reduce the amount of time I was working on client engagements, and really start focusing on the business. And then hiring team members who can help me continue to grow the business. In the early days, my co-founder and I brought in a third partner, but the rest was, we were a pretty flat organization. It was folks that we had in delivery that were focused on our clients. And so managing the number of engagements and making sure we were providing an exceptional experience for all of our clients at that size and scale actually was still relatively easy, compared to where we are today, 12, 13 acquisitions later, closer to 500 employees, hundreds of clients. You really need an infrastructure now that's capable of managing all of that. And that's been challenging, but really rewarding too. We've learned along the way, and we've had a tremendous amount of growing pains. High growth is great, but it creates a lot of chaos. And if you're uncomfortable with change, and most people are, this can be a very uncomfortable environment. I've had to grow and become comfortable being uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
Now, at some point, you decided to partner with private equity and you picked Further Growth Capital. So, why them? How did you run that process? And what has it been like to collaborate with them as part of this journey from 40 to 500 and all that stuff?
Before Further, there was a group based in Chicago that we actually partnered with, a much smaller private equity group, one that I had become very close to. I was the lead on several of their engagements as the interim CFO, became an advisor, became an investor in their funds, and they were very successful at doing roll-ups in healthcare managed service organizations. And so when we reached, let's call it 10 million in revenue, and we had a very narrow set of capabilities and solutions at that time, for me, I started thinking about accelerating the growth beyond, the strong organic growth that we had. And the thought was, if we had more capabilities to offer our clients where we've established trust and built really healthy relationships, then there's more to offer in terms of value to those clients. I can develop it internally. It will take me longer, or I can go and acquire it, something I learned in my days in private equity. And so I approached this firm, and they loved the idea. They loved the strategy. We actually acquired our first 5 companies. These were small companies, entrepreneurially run, but it enabled us to go from 10 to 50 plus in a matter of just 2 more years. And it was at that point in time when I realized we were going to need a bigger partner. What's that scene where he says, we're going to need a bigger knife?
No, it's from Jaws. And
Yeah. Or we're going to need a bigger boat. We were going to need a bigger checkbook. We ended up hiring an advisor who ran an incredible process for us, drove a lot of demand and excitement around E78 and what we were building and what the growth potential was, and therefore the return on investment was. And, it came down to just a couple of firms in the end, Further Global being one. And what I loved about Further was that the founders of that firm, they had just founded Further Global in 2017, and I founded E78 in 2016. And I just felt like there was a real strong chemistry and connection to the key principles that I was dealing with. And having spent some time in private equity, I knew what I didn't want. And what I didn't want was to have this sense of feeling micromanaged and me just being a figurehead. And they've been terrific partners. They've really enabled us to accelerate the growth. We've grown more than 3x now, just in over 2 years with them as our partner. And at some point, they will look to monetize the return on their investment, and we will need, yet again, a bigger boat, a bigger checkbook. And so it was really important that we found a partner that was going to enable us to execute our strategy, support us in the areas that we needed support, but allow us to run the business, make the mistakes we were going to make, learn from those mistakes, and just move on.
within the context of what you just said, can you point to one specific thing that you would say, boy, I just didn't know that this was going to be on the table?
The things that have been, that I've been challenged by as the CEO, as the leader of this much larger organization now, we are a people business. And when you have hundreds of people, and at some point will be thousands of people, one learning lesson is you can't make everybody happy. And so don't try to please everyone. Just do the right thing. Absolutely do the right thing. 2, hiring is probably the most difficult part of my job. And when you acquire that many companies, the most challenging part of integration is not operational integration or commercial integration. It's cultural integration. And we're partnering with founders who we believe are like-minded and growth-oriented, but at the end of the day, they have their unique culture. And so now you're bringing them into E78, and you want everyone to adopt and embrace the culture that E78 has built. And so I've had to make a lot of really tough decisions around people, including a decision where I started a business with a co-founder, and that co-founder was in the role of CFO and did a phenomenal job getting us to a place along our evolution. But we needed someone who had the reps at a different size and scale to take us to the next level. And so that's a difficult conversation to have with your partner, someone who helped you start the business and was a key contributor to the success.
Yeah, I took on a couple of partners who were frankly dear friends from college, and we still have a super relationship. But at some point they both left at different times, and I'm here today because of them, absolutely. But probably for all parties, it was a better thing that we sort of parted ways. And over the last 6, 7 years, I've been reasonably on my own to make the tough decisions. To your point, pro and con, being the lone wolf out there ain't easy, but also don't have to ask for permission on all kinds of stuff and gain consensus. You can just say, this is a part of our culture. I'm very collaborative and I query the room, but at some point, there's certain things I just say, F it, it's my decision, let's go. And I'm comfortable with that. I'm very comfortable with it.
And I would say for me, I'm not a confrontational person. As a leader, you have to be comfortable with making those decisions. And I think earlier on, as you're partnering with these groups, you do want to create a sense of collaboration, and you appreciate their perspective and input. But I go back to the point of you can't please everyone. And so you do what you believe is right, do the right thing, and know that not everyone's going to be happy with the result, but you're doing what you believe to be the right thing for the organization.
Creating a unified, cohesive culture is really a starting point. So what do you think you're striving for, and where do you think you are in the progress towards that in just a purely cultural level?
There's really 3 core values that we hang our hat on, right? As entrepreneurs, you really have to have a passion for what it is you do. And now together as one E78, we are very passionate about the business that we're building, the people we are serving, the opportunities that we are creating. And so leading with passion, being a professional, doing the right thing for our clients, putting them first, absolutely critical. We want to be game changers. We want to be indispensable partners to our clients. I say, Scott, that we're in the pain management business, right? They come to us because they're dealing with some sort of pain, operational, organizational pain that internally they just can't solve. They either don't have the right resources, they don't have the technical expertise, perhaps, bandwidth constraints, whatever it is. We want to partner with our clients. We want to alleviate that pain. We want to leave them better than they were before they started. And so you've got to be passionate about client service. You've got to be passionate about solving people's problems and putting them first.
There's one thing that's, I guess, is culture. I don't think of it this way, but it probably is responsiveness. There is a mandate in this agency that you respond to emails right away. If it's a client or something that's time urgent, or I'll call it relationship urgent, if somebody is not responded in like an hour and a half, I'm getting on them, because I know that people notice that. And it is a hallmark of what it's like to work with us. And I hope your colleagues would say the same thing, which is we get back to people and we're on it because we want everybody to feel like, you're super important. And the way in which to get things done is with a sense of urgency. That is the one thing that I draw the line and say everybody has to be that way.
Absolutely. We are results oriented for sure. And the comment I made earlier, when we started the business, the key driver to our growth, we didn't have a big marketing budget. We weren't driving new leads. All of our business came from word of mouth and referral because of the experience that we were able to deliver.
In service to what you were saying before, which is, look, you were 13, now you're 1, in a fairly short time frame. And the pro is you got 13, you built your team, you built your revenue, but then you turn around and go, I got a lot of tribes behind me. And you need to unify the culture. And so talk about that. Talk the role of culture and brand into future vision and business success, whatever the interim benefit is.
Partnering with your firm has been another exceptional experience. We were struggling with identity. When you bring 13 firms together, it's just one standard offering. The purpose of the acquisitions that we completed was all of these capabilities together provide a very comprehensive suite of solutions for our clients. But again, these firms had their own identities, they had their own cultures, and our aspiration is to unite these firms under one E78, one team, serving our clients and providing an exceptional experience. As the firm has evolved beyond just what it started as a CFO advisory firm, today we provide solutions to CIOs and technology leaders, as well as asset managers. And so when we're bringing all these folks together, they struggle with how do you make sense of all of this? Where do we fit in the organization? And what is our identity? What do we stand for? And so the work that you all have done in helping us by looking at our vision, our strategy, our values, our culture, who we serve, what we believe, and what we aspire to do together, the way you were able to coalesce all of that to help us create a brand that was maybe in my head, but you found a way to pull that out. And we are so excited to roll out and launch our brand and share with all of our people just exactly what our identity is, who we are here to serve, what E78 is all about. And when you're a part of this family, what that means and what we expect from you, frankly, right? And we know that we have responsibility to create an experience for you as well, right? So it's mutual. I'm just really excited to roll this. I think the work you guys did and your partners did is nothing short of incredible. So,
Well, I appreciate that, and all glory goes to those around me. But it's a challenge to brandify a services firm of any stripe. You're selling the invisible. There's no beer, there's no iPhone, whatever. You're selling expertise, you're selling service, you're selling leadership, all these intangibles. But at the end of the day, you're still responsible for putting a story behind it and making it tangible. And so, A, it's challenging as hell. But B, I love the journey and I love the process and the end result. But bringing together fractured or tribal organizations is the most rewarding thing because the progress and the benefit is there in front of everybody and it's used immediately. And again, you laugh at this stuff, but I can't tell you the value of the stuff, right? The stuff, for those who are not watching, I took my hat off. But it's just, contemporary society in America, right? In 2024, we love our stuff. And to embrace that the way you would embrace Nike or Coke or whatever is just cool to be a part of that process and to apply that and to enable companies to zing their way to the top of the pile. Because look, let's face it, you compete against the most sophisticated firms in the world. And now you're ready.
Yep. No, we've got the persona now. I think what you've helped us create is the right reflection of E78. It's the way we want to be perceived out in the market because it truly reflects who we are, from the imagery to the design to the content, the positioning. It's not easy, but you were able to listen, the passion, right? There were many times you and I had a conversation about like, hey, what you wrote or what you said, like it resonated and here's the way I perceived it. And then to see what the imagery or what you put in front of me, I was like, you've captured it.
We're going to wrap up with a couple things I'd love to get at. Personal life. Share a few things about your family, wife, kids, dog, house, summer home. What's the personal side of John Signa?
Yes, family, wife, Michelle, 2 boys, Frankie and Jacob, 13 and 10, going into 8th grade and going into 5th grade. Both huge soccer fans, soccer players. Our weekends are normally consumed in travel soccer tournaments, but it's really cool. I was a soccer player through high school and in some college, so to watch them now, it's like reliving those glory days through them. Live in Oak Brook. Office is headquartered here in Oak Brook. Love the community. My folks are still around, so I get to see them on the weekends. I go back to the home I grew up in because my mom refuses to sell it. She loves the home. She has an emotional attachment to just about anything she's ever bought. It's fine. I go there. I get Sunday pasta dinners. No plans this summer. We installed a pool 2 years ago. So like my vacation is more like a stay vacation. If we're not on the road traveling for soccer tournaments, I'm usually parked in my backyard. I do have a beer with me when I'm in the backyard. I will have to have you over for a barbecue or something this summer. But that's how I enjoy my free time.
Well, I was a soccer player as well, played in high school, did not play in college. As an art major, I was scared to death of being overcommitted, and I never even tried out.
Okay.
Ironically, I went to Washington, St. Louis, and we went to the D3 finals my senior year. So that's probably my biggest regret in life. But my daughter became a volleyball player.
Cool.
And from 6th grade on, that was our lives. And she played D1, and through college, it was 10 years of my life was watching volleyball.
Wow, that's awesome.
All right. Last league, I have to ask because you're dyed in the wool Chicago. I'm assuming your Sox, not Cubs?
I'm not even a big baseball fan, but growing up, I have a cousin I'm very close with, and we were very competitive always. And he was a diehard Cubs fan, so by default, I became a Sox fan.
All right, sir. We're going to wrap. We're at time. This was spectacular.
Cool.
Thank you again, and we look forward to hearing the response once this goes live.
Well, thanks for having me, Scott.
From all of us at Monogram Group, thanks for tuning in to Beer Stories for Private Equity.
Episode 13.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified as we release new episodes. Please check out the show notes in the description from today's episode. Our email is podcast@monogramgroup.com. Feel free to email us with any comments or questions, and we'll try to answer them in our next episode.